All right. Any requests? I know obliques, huh? Oh my God, you guys are hilarious. All right, well, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me for Pilates All Levels. My name is Audra, and today we're going to use a ball. If you're at home and you don't have one, you can use a pillow, fold it a couple times. And honestly, if at any point you're like, I'm done with this prop, you can get rid of it. It's fine. As always, listen to your body. Don't do anything that doesn't work for you, and feel free to modify as needed. We're actually going to begin in a kneeling position today. And we're just going to do a little check-in and see what our body tells us, right? So see if your hips are kind of pointed back, or if they're forward, if your ribs are lifting or compressing, where your shoulders and ears are. And we're just going to bring one foot forward. Now, we're going to get a little stretch through here, but we're not going to start with a big static stretch. So just tuck your tailbone a little bit, squeeze your glute, and gently let yourself come forward and then press yourself back. Just kind of romancing the range of motion here. Trying to keep the ribs kind of over the hips. Got a couple more. And it's almost as if this front foot is dragging you forward. Good. Last two. You're welcome to pad your knee if you like. Last one, and just kind of hold for a second. Only go into a range that feels comfortable for you. And we're just going to gently press down with that back foot, just to sub-maximally for 5, 4. Hopefully you felt your quad light up a little bit. 3, 2, inhale. Exhale, stop pressing. See if your range increased a little. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. Now this time we're going to think of our knee pressing down and forward, so we can, it's as if we're trying to come into hip flexion here. We're just going to hold for 5, 4, relaxing your shoulders, they don't need to help. 3, 2, and relax. And just see if you get a little bit more openness through that hip. And if it works for your body, we're just going to slide our hips from side to side a little bit to see what our body is telling us. 2 more. And hold. Now pay attention to your foot. Is it pointed out? Is it rotated in? Just notice. We're actually going to do both if it's okay with your range of motion. So if your body allows it, slide your foot across your midline a little bit and see if you feel a change in the stretch. So your TFL is an internal rotator. So if you have trouble getting into external rotation, it could mean that this is restricted. So we're going to take that same side, arm as back leg, and just reach it overhead. And see if you can get a little extra stretch. And then come back to center. Now, we're just going to try the opposite way. Boop. So our psoas is an external rotator as well. So we're going to see if this changes our stretch. And then we can take opposite arm as back leg. Yeah, good morning balance. And then come back to center. And we're just going to bring our knees together and see if you can feel a difference from side to side, right? Yeah, and we get to do the other side. I know, it's so exciting. So bring it forward and just kind of see where your range is. Do a little baby tuck. Let yourself come forward and press back. Oh, hello. Is one side more exciting than the other side? Yeah. Couple more. Now, if for any reason it's really uncomfortable to be on your knee, you can always do these standing. It's just a little bit trickier. 2 more. And last one, let me just hold your end range that is comfortable and push your back foot into the ground, like 10% of your ability. For 5, 4, 3, 2, big inhale. Big exhale, just stop pressing, see if you get a little bit more range. And then we can press down and forward as if we're trying to come into hip flexion. And maybe you feel this in a different place, right? Couple more breaths. 3, 2, big inhale. Big exhale. See if you can get a little more range. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. And then we're just going to typewriter our hips from side to side, see how it feels and what your body is telling you. 2 more. And hold. Now just see what your back foot is doing, right? Maybe one side is different than the other, and it just gives you information, right? So if one side is internally rotated and the other isn't, that tells you that one muscle is tighter than the other, right? So we're going to sweep that foot across your midline into external rotation. And maybe you don't want to go as far. You'll see when you get into that stretch. Same side as back leg, reach it up and over. It's okay to kind of press that hip to the side a little. Couple breaths here. And then come back to center. Switch that rotation, and then we do the opposite. So Nancy, point your foot towards Kyle, your back foot towards Kyle. Yeah, there you go. Kyle, don't fall, you got this. Yeah, good. Couple more breaths here. And come back to center. And then just bring your knees down together and see if you can find a little bit more openness through the front of your hips and a little bit more centration of the ribs. Good. All right, nice job, you guys. We're coming on to our back. Yeah. Now go ahead, bring your arms to the ground in a T position, making sure this is comfortable for your shoulders, and you can always do a goalpost. And we're just going to use the back of our shoulders to press down into the floor a little bit, keeping the ribs soft. Lift up onto your toes and let your knees just start to go to one side. If you find yourself arching here, close your ribs, big breath, and then think about your rib cage dragging back and your knees just come along for the ride. Other side. So it's less about a big range of motion and more about letting a little bit of rotation happen from your ribs, keeping that hip long. Inhale, exhale, bring it back to center. And again, just notice how each side feels. And when you get to your end range, notice if your body had a strategy for getting you there, right? Maybe one of your knees really slid back, maybe your shoulder came up, maybe your back arched, and see if you can kind of close the ribs a little bit. Good. We're going to hold this last one over. Good. And look the opposite way of your knees. And breathe. And drag it back. Last one, other side. Just letting your back kind of relax here. Filling your whole torso with oxygen. And drag it back to center. Go ahead, cross one leg over the other. You can either have it in a figure 4 or like a really like tight cross-legged position, whatever feels best for you and your hips. And we're just going to allow our hips to sway a little from side to side. We don't have to go far. We're just kind of exploring the range and seeing what feels good. Now, if this feels appropriate, stick with this. If you would like, you can come into more of a traditional figure 4 stretch and use your hand to help keep you upright if you like. 2 more breaths, getting a little bit of potentially glute or even more TFL, depending on what is restricted. And then just switch legs, bring the foot down. Start with just a sway from side to side. And just notice how one side might feel very different than the other, right? And then if this is appropriate, great. If it's appropriate to bring yourself into that figure 4, you can do that. Couple more breaths here. And 2. Last set. And bring 1 foot at a time down. Now, go ahead and grab your prop and pop it between your knees. And just kind of see where your hips and back are. Hopefully you're in a comfortable neutral position, right? So if you're arched or your low back is kind of smashed into the ground, see if you can kind of go through neutral and imprint, go through neutral and arch a little and then come back to neutral, right? So it's like when you tuck, this porridge is too hot. When you arch, this porridge is too cold. Neutral is just right. Now on your next exhale, think about your hip bones pulling towards each other. And then relax on your inhale. On your exhale, let your ribs pull towards each other. And then relax on your inhale, right? So on your inhale, your ribs expand away from each other. On your exhale, they draw towards each other. On your next exhale, gently squeeze the ball. And then inhale. Exhale, gently squeeze the ball. Couple more. On your next one, squeeze and hold. Gently come into your imprint and hold. Now see if you can deepen your imprint. You can always use your hands here to help you deepen your imprint. And press your feet into the floor, peel your spine up into a bridge. And then check it out, right? See if your weight is in your neck, if you're lifting from your shoulders, or if your weight is evenly distributed between your shoulder blades and your feet. Inhale here. Exhale, think about melting your throat away from your face, your sternum away from your throat, your ribs and low back and sacrum into the mat. And we inhale, exhale, imprint and peel. Think about pushing down equally with the side of your foot and your big toe mound. And then exhale, melt and roll. Good, couple more. And hopefully, since we got a little bit of hip opening at the beginning, hopefully your bridges are a little easier, right? It's a little easier to get glute. It's a little easier to stay out of your back. One more. Think of those knees lengthening away from you, heels dragging towards you. And then hollow out through the front of your body, melting and rolling. When you get to the end, let your sits bones widen. Interlacing your hands behind your head. Spiral your elbows forward into your peripheral vision, just to get your serratus to activate a little. And making sure you're looking towards your mid-thigh, come into your chest lift. Now, first one, of course, doesn't count. Just feel where your shoulder blades touch the ground. Feel where you're lifting from. Now, inhale, see if you can breathe into the ground to help lift you up. And then exhale, draw away from the front. And then slowly lengthen down. On your next exhale, let's try to engage our transverse abdominis before we move. So start your exhale before you move. Think about your hip bones pulling together, and then your ribs sink down. Maybe you just found more deep abdominal activation. And then slowly lower. Now, on your next one, imagine that you have a beach ball that you want to kind of come up and over. And see which one feels better for you, right? See which one doesn't challenge your neck too much and gets into your deep abdominals, yeah? Last one. And hold. Now feel your shoulder blades, right? Hopefully it's the bottom tips barely tapping the ground and not the whole shoulder blade. Bring your fingertips forward. Push into an imaginary surface. Hands come back behind your head, try not to lower. Now inhale, exhale, lift one of your shoulder blades barely off the ground. Come back. Inhale, exhale, other side. So this is just kind of exploring, right? We're seeing if one shoulder is trying to help or if we can rotate. We're seeing if our hip tries to move. We're trying to see if our nervous system actually puts up a little bit of a fight, right? And it's just a tiny little hover. We're not even really trying to rotate yet. One more like this. That's way harder than it should be, right? And now on this next one, hover, inhale, exhale, rotate. Come back to center. Hover, rotate. Now, as we rotate, I want you to think about the opposite rib and hip drawing towards each other. And back. And again. Couple more here, using your breath. How's everybody doing? Good. Anybody not feeling your obliques yet? That's what I thought. Now, we're going to engage that opposite inner thigh. So when you take your right rib to your left hip, you're also going to squeeze your left inner thigh. Come back. And then left rib, right inner hip, right inner thigh. Hold. Come back to center. And again. And again. We've got one more each side. And back to center. Head comes all the way down. Yeah, go ahead. Bring your arms back out to your T position unless you prefer goalpost. Think about lifting your heels and just see what your pelvis did. If it shifted, come back to neutral. Squeeze the ball, flex your feet so your heels are hovering off the ground. And then you can bring your legs to tabletop. Now, if you prefer legs together, that's great. I prefer knees apart, heels together. It's up to you and your body. So think of your thighs connecting to your ribs. We're just going to slowly lower our knees away from us, hovering the feet above the ground. Exhale, float them back. Now, if you're used to being in a chest lift position here, you might be like, well, I don't feel this as much, right? Because the chest lift gets your rectus abdominis and your obliques a little bit, whereas this is more about your deep intrinsic core stabilizers, right? This is more about diaphragm, pelvic floor, transverse abdominis. If you need the assistance of the superficial muscles, that's also great. You can come into your chest lift. Otherwise, we have 2 more. Last one. Bringing both legs to your tabletop, right? Maybe that is knees closer to your chest. Maybe that's your heels down. And we're going to squeeze the ball, let one hip lift. The other hip will start to lower. We're not going super far. It's about activation. Inhale, exhale, drag the ribs back, squeeze the ball. Hopefully, other side, you can feel your obliques here. And drag. If you feel your back instead of your obliques, check to see if you are arching your back. A lot of times our erectors get really sneaky. Couple more. And of course, if you need to, you can always put your feet on the ground. We got 1 more each side. And go ahead and come all the way back. Bring your feet down one at a time. And interlace your hands behind your head, spiraling those elbows forward. Shoulder blades hug down and around. Come into your chest lift here. Good. Now, if you need to, of course, you can bring your hands forward, help offload. Now slide one heel out along the floor. Press it down into the ground, drag it back. Other side. Good. Now, as you press it out, think of it helping leverage you up, right? Good. And as you do this, reach that foot so far away from you that maybe like half a pound comes out of that foot. Try to push it away rather than lift it up, which I know seems like it's the same move, but our nervous system responds to the input we give it. Good. Couple more. Now we're going to change it up. Are you excited? Good. Extend one leg, extend the other leg. Good. Now, if this doesn't feel okay in your back for any reason, bend one knee instead. Now inhale, exhale, push one foot away, let it barely hover, and then back down. Other side, trying to keep your knee soft so we're not hyperextending through our knee or using our quad to get us there. So think about the knee being soft. It's not about the foot lifting, it's about it pushing away. Anybody else immediately feeling abs? Yeah. Now, just for funsies, same thing, put your head down. So it's a different sensation. If you use your breath, it's going to help you. If you don't, it's just going to be more hip flexor. So inhale, exhale, bring everything together, start to push that foot away, really stabilizing from your deep abdominals. And again, that we're not doing anything crazy like trying to use the opposite shoulder to help stabilize. Okay. One more each side. Last one. Now go ahead, bring your hands back behind your head. Come into your chest lift. Now you can stick with one leg at a time, or think about squeezing your inner thighs together. Inhale, exhale, push both feet away. And then back down. Now, if you felt your back try to do the work, stick with one leg at a time, okay? Otherwise, inner thigh, push, maybe it hovers, and then back. Couple more. Why is this important? Well, If we're doing hundreds, if we're doing rollovers, if we're doing anything that requires us to be able to stabilize with our legs extended, we also need to be able to pick them up off the ground without our back doing all the work. 2 more. Last one. And then if you want, try it with your head down. It's an entirely different adventure, right? Anyone immediately start trembling here? Yeah, same. 2 more. Last one. Feet down, head down. Yeah, bring your arms overhead. We're going to do some roll-ups. Yay. Inhale. Exhale. Sink your ribs back and down and curl forward. Good. Now, reach your arms forward. Bring your shoulder blades down your back a little bit. So it's less about gripping with the lats, more about just encouraging the lats to say hello. Sinking the ribs back and up as if somebody you like is giving you a hug. And then we roll all the way down. Keep those ribs integrated as you stabilize those arms coming overhead. And then inhale. Exhale. Now ask your body some questions, right? If on your way up you feel stuck, ask your body, is it coming from my back, right? So one thing to do is check if you can imprint. If you can't, bend your knees a little bit and then see if you can imprint, right? So maybe you need your knees slightly bent in order to get up a little easier. Or if your feet are together and as you come up, your feet try to widen, that could tell you that your abductors, right, either your TFL or your glutes or your lateral hamstrings could be a little tight. And maybe you need your feet slightly wider to create space for your pelvis to rotate. Good. Now we're going to add on. Are you guys so excited? Yeah, I'm so glad someone is. All right, so we're going to roll up like usual. And if you get stuck, you can always use a leg, right? And then when we come down, you're going to pause, connect your thighs up to your ribs. Inhale, exhale, push your feet away, maybe they hover. Yep, and then back down, arms come overhead. And then we roll. How did those feel? Everybody great? Challenging? Yeah, it's okay. But because this is the first part of a rollover and a teaser, because we might be allowing ourselves to try teaser here in a minute, it's an option, not a demand, but you already have the practice of letting your feet hover, right? Now you can stick with this, whether you're actually letting your feet hover or not, or we can do teasers. If we're, you all just gave me a look. We're gonna start teasers up here, so whenever you're ready. All right, so arms draw down. Let's talk about teasers real quickly. If we are up on our sits bones, as opposed to behind our tailbone, it's way more hip flexor and quad, right? So go ahead, bring one knee towards your chest and extend it. And rock forward off of your tailbone, more onto your sits bones, sitting up tall, and then let it go. Oh, so much quad, right? Now, curl back behind your tailbone. You can still lift your collarbones to the sky. Less quad, right? More ab. Let's try it again on the other side. So I'm like, okay, upright. And then curl it back. a little easier, yeah? Good. Now, give your legs a little love in case they tried to like cramp from helping, right? We're gonna reach arms forward, curl part of the way back behind your tailbone. Hold, inner thighs together, push your feet away, then hands come back. See if those legs can float some. Great, that was it, that was beautiful. We're gonna roll all the way down. Roll all the way down. And then if you want to try teaser, as you start to curl forward, you push your feet away. Yeah, boom. And then down. Now what happens if long levers are too much? Bend your knees. No problem. What happens if you need a little assist? Use your hands. No problem. Yeah. Good. Nice, everybody. How are those feeling? Yeah. Yeah. 2 more. Last one, we're going to hold it up. We're going to hold on to your legs. Now, whether we're up here at the ankle or down here, does not matter to me. Inhale, exhale, let go with one hand. And then other side. So we are challenging our obliques by doing single arms, right? So we're holding on, right? So if we do both, our body responds differently than if we do one, yeah? Good. Now, if you're here, is that okay? Yeah, totally fine. Honestly, if you're here, is that okay? Yes, it's great. 2 more. Now, go ahead, hold on. Hopefully, you have some space behind you. Glance behind you if you're like, I don't really. Move closer to the end of your mat. And if you're ready, we're going to do open leg rocker. Curl your tailbone. Allow yourself to only rock to your shoulder blades, not your neck. And we hold. And we curl. And we come up and we hold. Now, could you also do rolling like a ball instead? Yes. Good. If you tend to have that kind of thunk moment, that could be that like you don't have enough like flexion through part of your spine to easily get there. So don't even necessarily try to rock really far or aggressively, right? Just try to keep it in that easy position. Looking at your, like, yeah, don't look at the sky. You'll see it, you'll feel a difference. Look between your knees. Look between your knees, look between your knees. See how much easier that is? Yeah. And nice job. Feet together, knees apart. Yeah. Yeah. And breathe. And then just see what your legs do, right? So if you're like me and you don't have a whole lot of hip rotation, instead of pushing down really hard with your elbows, you can just let your elbows be gently heavy on your legs. And then you can push your knees up into your elbows. And then you inhale, exhale, relax. Get one more. Nice. All right, we're going to come on to hands and knees for a second. Don't worry, we'll get more ab work at the end. I know you were all very worried. But hands underneath your shoulders, unless you need to be on your forearms. Okay, now we're going to do some variations of bird dog. So if for any reason you have really a lot of difficulty with the move, you can either keep your foot on the ground, or if you have access to a wall, you can push into the wall to get that glute and that entire posterior chain to help you out, okay? So first, we're gonna lengthen one foot behind us, push down into the ground, slowly let it fold underneath you, other side. Slowly let it fold. A few more. And just notice what your body does here, right? So maybe you shift, or maybe you drop. It's just information, right? On this next one, we're going to hold. Now, you can keep it on the ground or you can hover it. We're gonna start by just rotating that hip bone down towards the ground, come back to center, rotate it up towards the sky. And down and up. You can also do this with the leg elevated. I personally like my foot either down or on the wall here, because I get more muscle recruitment because it's a closed chain as opposed to an open chain. So whatever your body wants to try is great. Trying not to shift into that kneeling side. So it's like glute work on this side, right? Everybody feeling that kicking on? Yeah. Now, hold there, float the knee in, reach it out, and that opposite arm can potentially reach. And out. Same side. If you need to, you just slide the foot. 2. Last one, we get to hold. Hold for 5. Hold. 4. Hold. Good. Last 2. And bring it in. Guess what? Other side. So we're just going to slide it out. Good. And hold. Let it come back. Reach it out. Just one more. Then we get to hold. We're going to rotate. So hip bone drops down, come back to center, hip bone lifts up. Now, even though we have that leg behind us, and even though this hip bone is kind of the one we're thinking about, what's working the most is that stabilizing side. So also bring your belly button up. We're not letting ourselves arch. Good. Couple more. Once again, this can be on the ground or elevated. Oh, if you elevate, you might notice your back foot actually trying to help initiate the movement, which is just information, right? 2 more. Last one. Coming back to center. We're just going to reach the opposite arm away. So maybe you keep that leg down. Maybe you hover it. It's up to you. Push them to opposite walls. It's not about going to the sky, right? 2. Last one, and we hold for 5. Hold 4. Hold 3. Hold 2. Hold 1. Press yourselves all the way back. Feel free to kind of roll out your wrists a bit. And we're coming back. So we're going to do a plank. If you need to plank on your forearms, if you need to put something underneath your feet, whatever you need, it's fine. But come back to your setup. And you can slide a foot out, push down into the ground, other side comes to meet it. Lengthen through the crown of your head. Now, if your hips are dropping down or your buns are coming up, tuck your tailbone, squeeze your glutes forward, lengthen through your ears. Good. Squeeze those buns as well. Yeah. Good. Couple more. Beautiful. Nice job. Hold for 4, 3, 2, knees down. Press yourself into that rest position. Now, without moving anything, come into your knee plank position. So articulate into knee plank. Don't go past, right? And then roll back. And then curl your tailbone under, lift up, keep pushing into the ground, and then nod and hollow. Nancy, don't drop your hips. Tuck your tailbone first. keep the tuck. Come forward, keep the tuck. Tuck your butt, come forward. Keep doing that. Keep going, keep going. There, hold. Yes. Do you feel the difference? Yeah. So a lot of times if we tend to arch through our low back, that's the first thing we're trying to do, right? But we're trying to find a plank. So knee plank is literally the exact same thing as a full plank with the knees down. Okay, and we are getting movement through our spine, shoulders, and hips here. Last one. Now, hold. If you're ready, you can tuck your toes under, lift up into your full plank, hinge, tap the knees down so you're in knee plank. Lift. You can also just keep doing what we were doing. 3, 2. Last one. Knees down. Press yourself into a rest position. Good. Hands up and over to one side. Press your hips away. And then other side. Go ahead. Come on to your side. And we've got this prop, so why don't we use it as a pillow? If you're like, no, thank you, I'm not into that, you can always just use your arm. Now take your hip, lengthen it away from your face a little bit to kind of find length. But if you're still sinking into your ribs, then you're still like curled, right? So think about your bottom ribs lifting up a bit. That lat is nice and active. And then that hip kind of goes away from your face. Now just check your hip bones. With this, we want that top hip bone pointing forward just a fraction of an inch. Good. And then if it's appropriate for your body, lift your feet. If it's not, that's fine. If all of a sudden you tucked, stick your booty out. Squeeze your heels together and start letting your knee point towards the sky. Maybe it gets really far. Maybe it doesn't. That's okay. I would prefer you to keep it a little bit smaller and keep your hip bones facing forward than going for the gold and having your whole body respond, right? Good. Lovely. Couple more here. 3. Nice. Making sure that it's the glute that's helping spiral that thigh bone in the socket. Last one. Go ahead, bring that bottom foot down. Push the top foot away from you. Reach, reach, reach. Now look at it. Make sure that it's not forward. We want to drag it slightly back behind us. Good. And then widening through the sits bones, let it come in, press it away. Good. Nice. How's that feeling, everybody? Great. Now, let's try a couple different visuals. And also, you can always push your foot into a wall here if you need a little bit more support and assistance finding that muscle recruitment. All right, so with this next one, imagine nothing encumbering your leg. Maybe it's gliding on ice. It's a really smooth, easy movement, but there's not a ton of like, I feel muscle recruitment, right? Now this time, imagine that I'm pushing your foot and you're gonna bend your knee, but you're gonna resist me. And then on the way out, you're pushing me away. Do you feel how your glute just kicked on a little bit more? Yeah. Good. 2 more. Yeah. Last one. Reach it out. Good. Now, making sure you've got that nice open hip, so no back arching. Just take that foot slightly behind you and tiny little circles here. Now, think about first that glute helping stir the thigh bone in the socket. You can imagine that I'm pushing against your foot and you're still gonna move. And then after a couple of those, imagine nothing but freedom through that hip joint. Easy ice skater motion. And then the other way. So press and push. 2 more. And then imagine Just freedom through that hip joint. 2. And last 1. Bring both knees together. We're going to take that top arm. We're just going to allow a little bit of rotation. Maybe that top hip slides back. That's okay. And back to center. Try to keep the rotation mostly through the rib cage. 2 more. Last one. Go ahead, come all the way up onto your forearm or your hand. I'll show both. Now, first, think about don't think about your arm, don't think about your legs, just try to lift your hips. It's kind of a lot of work, right? Now, push your elbow down into the ground. Push your knees down into the ground. Push those down so much that your hips have no other option than to lift. It's not nearly as much work to get up there, right? Yeah. Now, you can either stick with this, or you can extend your top leg, or you can also extend your bottom leg. You can also do this on your hand, but we're not doing the slumber party shoulder, right? We are pushing to get that lift. Good. We have 3. Good. You can always pick whichever variation works for you. Good. Guess what? Other side. Yeah, side planks are great. Okay. Go ahead. Find that setup where you lift your bottom ribs, slide that top hip away from your face, and then if it's appropriate, lift your feet. Good. And then keep those sits bones wide, spiraling your thigh bone in the socket. Now, first one never really counts, right? I will sometimes create like an arrow for myself, and I'll see if my arrow moves. And if my arrow moves, I now know, okay, I went too far. Good. You're right there, Nancy? Oh, okay. Good, we have just a few more. Once again, spiraling that thigh bone in the socket. We have 3. Good. 2 more. Last 1. Take that left or that bottom foot down, flex your foot, push it away. Good. Now, glance at your foot, make sure it's not forward, just kind of at least in line, if not slightly behind you, and then it bends. Now, the trickiest part can sometimes be what your foot is doing, right? So we want to try to find neutral in our knee and our foot. So if your foot externally rotates, let it be soft and kind of dangly. And you can imagine that I'm pushing you, you're going to let me, but you're resisting and then you're pushing me away. Good. It's like we're playing tug of war. I'm going to win. You're going to win. Couple more. Good. Now, just for funsies, do a couple where it's just free and easy. Like you're on an ice rink sliding. Good. Last one like this. Then reach it back slightly behind you. And we circle. Tiny little circles. And you can either visualize resisting or freedom. And then we want to visualize the opposite. So if you were visualizing resisting my pull, envision your hip just moving freely in the socket. And then reverse. Good. We have 5, 4. You guys are doing great. And then you can just visualize the opposite, right? 4, 3, And then both knees bend, reach that arm up. We get a little bit of rotation. And then back. And a little bit of rotation. Two more. Last one. And come on up for your knee plank or your side plank. So just for funsies, ignore the shoulder, ignore the knees, just try to lift. Good. And then push down, and see if that can get you to lift a little higher and a little easier. Yeah, good. And then maybe this is where you stay. And maybe you extend your foot. Maybe you extend your other foot. Maybe you want to do this on your hand, right? Once again, we push. Maybe you want to do this on your hand and your knee, or your hand and both knees. Two more. Good. Last one. Good. Come all the way down. We're going to take our prop. We're going to come into a little bit of upper back extension here. So support your head. Let your collarbones rotate around the prop. I promised you guys a little bit more ab. Now nod your chin, hollow out through the front of your body, curl forward, hold. Now keep that engagement and slowly let yourself extend. So we're getting upper back extension and ab work. Couple more like this. And you can move as close to or as far away from the ball as works for you. Right, everybody's proportions are different. And honestly, if you've got a pillow that's folded or a ball that's really deflated or really inflated, you have to adjust where you are. Now, if you would like, slide one leg away from you. As you curl up, slide it in toward your face and extend same leg. Good. Everyone feel that oblique starting to help? Yeah. We have just a couple more here. And then other side. Slide it out. Good. Nancy, lift towards, yeah, there you go. Good. Just took you a second. Two more. Last one. Now that foot comes down. We get to rotate towards the knee that comes in. Step it down other side. Now, if you'd like, of course, you can switch your legs midair. Good. 3, 2, good. Try to almost get your knee and elbow together. Last set. And then we get to come all the way to standing. All right. Now, hopefully you have a little bit of space to walk a few paces forward and a few paces back. So all we're going to do, and if the first way is really easy, we can make it more challenging. We're just going to walk a few paces forward as we look over our shoulder, over our shoulder, over our shoulder. And then we back up over the shoulder, over the shoulder. One way is much harder than the other, right? Let's try it again. Over, 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 over. Now, instead of looking over the front leg, look over the back leg. Told you guys it was going to be harder. Yeah. and then back. And then you can, yeah. So if you step forward with the right, look to the left. Yeah. Boom. Boom. Yep. It is a brain teaser. Now, if you want it more challenging, we walk on a tightrope. You can still look over. Boop, boop, and boop. Right? And then if you want it more challenging, you tightrope, look at the opposite leg. I mean, it's really hard, right? But this is just challenging our body and our like ocular system and our vestibular system, which is all part of balance and locomotion. All right, coming back to center, we're going to close our eyes, nod your chin to your chest, bring your ear to one shoulder, head back, opposite ear to opposite shoulder. So we're making a slow, small circle. Now we're going to do the same thing, add your shoulders a little bit. We're just going to do the beginning of our spine tornado, and then just add your ribs a little bit. And then come back to center, other side, or other direction. So, if you need to open your eyes at any point, that is okay. I would say if that's the case, open your eyes, right? And then you can bring your shoulders with you. So one thing with, if it makes you a little nauseous, that can actually be from your inner ear, right? So when we get crystals in our inner ear that settle strangely, that can create like a lot of like dizziness and nausea. So one thing you can either do is open your eyes, or you can also slow your movement down a little bit. Now come back to center, open your eyes. Now guess what? This is going to be so easy in comparison to how it is normally is. Lift one foot. Yeah, so much easier. Yeah, look at how balanced you are. Elizabeth, look at how good you're doing. Yeah. And then other side. I mean, you guys are killing. Yeah, but just kind of see. Yeah, but one foot at a time, even with eyes open, can be real challenging. And then we can either have our feet together or tightrope, and then you try closing one or both eyes. You've got both feet on the ground, but you've just taken the visual out of it. But it's still easier than it normally is, right? Yeah. And then other side. And with that, a couple things you can do is one, even before you close your eyes, let your feet move, right? So your body is like, oh yeah, I know how to adjust if I'm pronating or supinating. The other thing is feel free to do like spirit fingers or jazz hands, right? And little kitty cat paws. Just tells your nervous system, oh yeah, it's okay to move. Balance doesn't necessarily mean braced. And then open your eyes, draw your shoulders to your ears, drop them down, and give yourselves a round of applause. Awesome job today, you guys. Fantastic work. Thank you so much for joining me.